The morning mist clung to the ancient redwoods like ghostly fingers as Marcus Big Mike Thompson made his way through the dense Oregon forest. Standing 8 feet tall and weighing nearly 400 pounds of pure muscle, Mike earned his nickname not just from his size, but from his legendary status among his people. The humans called his kind Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or a dozen other names. To his own people, the Kithera, he was simply a guardian of the old ways. Mike paused at the edge of a clearing, his keen senses picking up something wrong. The forest had gone silent. No bird calls, no rustling of small animals. Even the ever-present buzz of insects had stopped. In his 300 years of life, such silence meant only one thing: predator. But this wasn't the scent of bear or mountain lion. This was something else entirely. Something that made his primitive brain scream warnings his modern mind struggled to understand. The smell was metallic, ozone-sharp, with an underlying chemical tang that had no place in the natural world. High above, invisible to most eyes but clear to Mike's enhanced vision, a sleek vessel moved through the canopy. Its hull shimmered with adaptive camouflage that bent light around it like water. Inside, Zextai the hunter studied his prey through advanced targeting systems. Zextai belonged to the Vorthak Dominion, a race that had earned their reputation as the galaxy's most feared predators. Standing 7 feet tall with midnight black chitinous armor naturally grown from their bodies, they possessed 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws, and eyes that could track movement across vast distances. Their society revolved around the hunt, and the greatest honor came from claiming the most dangerous prey. For months, Zextai had monitored Earth's communications, learning about the legendary creature called Bigfoot. The humans spoke of it in whispers, describing a being of incredible strength and cunning that had evaded detection for centuries. Perfect prey for a hunter seeking to prove his worth to the Galactic Council. The Council, a governing body of 12 ancient alien races, had recently questioned the Vorthak's dominance. Some upstart species had dared suggest that the Vorthak were becoming soft, that their legendary hunting prowess was nothing more than ancient reputation. Zextai would prove them wrong by bringing back the trophy of Earth's most elusive creature. Mike's nostrils flared as he caught the scent trail. Whatever was up there was hunting, and he was the target. His people had survived for millennia by avoiding confrontation, by remaining hidden, by being smarter than those who sought them. But something deep in his DNA, something primal and fierce, was stirring to life. The first energy bolt struck a tree inches from Mike's head, vaporizing a section of bark and sending superheated splinters flying. Mike rolled behind a massive boulder, his mind racing. Energy weapons meant technology far beyond human capability. This wasn't a government black ops team or overzealous cryptozoologist. This was something else entirely. Zextai's mandibles clicked in satisfaction as his prey took cover. The creature was intelligent enough to recognize advanced weaponry and fast enough to dodge his first shot. This would be an interesting hunt indeed. He activated his ship's hunting suite, deploying sensor drones and target acquisition systems. Mike pressed his back against the stone, feeling the warmth from where the energy blast had superheated the rock. His enhanced hearing picked up the barely audible hum of machinery, the soft whir of motors adjusting position. Whatever was hunting him was using advanced technology, but it was also giving away its position to someone who knew how to listen. The Kithera had not survived this long by being simple forest dwellers. Mike's people possessed their own advanced capabilities, hidden from human knowledge for good reason. His muscular frame contained bone density 3 times that of humans, muscle fibers that could generate tremendous force, and reflexes honed by centuries of avoiding detection. More energy bolts rained down, each one precisely targeted to drive Mike from cover toward open ground. The hunter was patient, methodical, trying to hurt his prey. Mike recognized the tactic because he had used it himself when hunting. But there was something the alien hunter didn't understand about his chosen prey. Mike wasn't just hiding. He was learning. Each energy discharge created a distinct sound signature. Each movement of the hunting craft above generated subtle vibrations through the forest canopy. Mike's enhanced senses mapped the hunting pattern, calculated the weapon's rate of fire, estimated the craft's position and movement speed. When the next volley came, Mike was ready. Instead of retreating further, he exploded from cover in a direction the hunter wouldn't expect, moving with shocking speed for something his size. His powerful legs launched him between the trees in a zigzag pattern that made targeting difficult. Energy bolts sizzled past him, but Mike had already calculated the firing delay and adjusted his movement accordingly. Zextai's eyes widened in surprise. His prey was not only fast, but demonstrated tactical intelligence beyond what his research had indicated. The creature's movement pattern showed understanding of weapon systems and combat doctrine. This was no primitive beast. Mike reached a section of forest where the canopy was particularly dense. He stopped suddenly, listening. Above him, the hunter's craft had also stopped, no doubt trying to reacquire the target. Mike smiled, showing teeth that could crack bones like twigs. The hunter had made a mistake. He had stopped directly above a place where Mike could reach him. Mike crouched low, feeling his muscles coil like massive springs. The Kithara possessed jumping ability that defied human understanding of biomechanics. With a roar that shook the forest, he launched himself upward, crashing through branches and leaves like a living missile. Zextai's craft detected the incoming threat, but too late. Mike's massive fist connected with the ship's hull, his enhanced strength and dense bone structure acting like a living warhammer. The impact sent shock waves through the craft's systems, causing alarms to blare and stabilizers to fail. The ship lurched sideways, its camouflage system flickering as power fluctuated. Mike crashed back down through the canopy, landing in a crouch that would have shattered human leg bones, but barely phased his reinforced skeleton. Above him, the wounded craft struggled to maintain altitude. Zextai fought to regain control, his mandibles clicking in fury and grudging respect. His prey had just accomplished something that should have been impossible. No primitive creature should have been able to damage advanced Vorthack technology with bare hands. His hunting computers were frantically recalibrating threat assessments. Mike didn't give him time to recover. He began moving again, but this time with purpose rather than evasion. The alien had brought advanced technology to his forest, had attacked without provocation. The ancient protective instincts of his people were fully awakened now. The hunter had become the hunted. Mike's knowledge of the forest became his greatest weapon. He used every shadow, every creek, every hidden path known to his people. The alien sensors, designed for open space combat, struggled with the dense interference created by the forest environment. Zextai fired repeatedly, but his target seemed to vanish and reappear like a ghost. Energy bolts struck empty spaces where his sensors insisted the creature should be. The being below wasn't just avoiding detection. It was actively deceiving his instruments. The craft's power systems, damaged by Mike's initial attack, began to fail more seriously. Warning lights flashed across Zextai's control panel. His camouflage system flickered on and off, making the ship intermittently visible. Emergency protocols suggested immediate withdrawal, but Vorthack pride demanded he continue the hunt. That pride would prove to be his downfall. Mike had circled around to a rocky outcropping that rose above the forest canopy. From this vantage point, he could see the alien craft clearly each time its cloaking system failed. The ship was smaller than he had initially thought, designed for stealth and precision rather than heavy assault. But it was also damaged and vulnerable. Mike picked up a boulder the size of a small car, his muscles straining but holding. He had watched human athletes throw, shot put, and discus, understanding the principles of leverage and rotation. What he was about to attempt would have seemed impossible to any observer, but the Kithara had been throwing rocks with deadly accuracy since before humans discovered fire. Zextai was still scanning the forest below when his ship's hull sensors detected incoming mass. He looked up through his viewports to see a massive stone hurtling toward him with impossible velocity and accuracy. There was no time to dodge. The boulder struck the craft's main engine housing with devastating force. Metal screamed as it tore apart, and the ship's power systems failed completely. artificial gravity cut out, throwing Zextai against his restraints as the craft began an uncontrolled descent toward the forest floor. Emergency systems engaged, trying to cushion the impact, but the damage was too severe. The ship crashed through the canopy like a falling star, branches snapping and debris flying in all directions. It hit the ground with tremendous force, carving a furrow through the earth before finally coming to rest against a cluster of ancient trees. Mike watched the crash from his rocky perch, then began making his way down to investigate. His people had protocol for dealing with threats, but this was unprecedented. Never before had an off-world hunter targeted the Kithra directly. The ship's hull was cracked open like an egg, revealing an interior filled with advanced technology beyond human understanding. Crystalline displays flickered weakly, showing alien text and symbols. Weapon racks held energy rifles and targeting devices. Most interesting of all were the trophy cases containing remains and artifacts from dozens of different species. Zextai emerged from the wreckage, his black armor cracked, but still functional. Green blood seeped from wounds where debris had penetrated his natural defenses. 3 of his 4 arms hung at unnatural angles, but his remaining functional limbs still gripped an energy weapon. The two beings faced each other across the crashed ship, predator and prey having reversed roles in the span of minutes. Zextai's eyes, designed to track fast-moving targets across vast distances, studied his opponent with new understanding. This was no primitive creature. The being before him demonstrated tactical intelligence, advanced physical capabilities, and intimate knowledge of his environment. The precision of that thrown boulder had been the work of a seasoned warrior, not a simple forest dweller. Mike studied the alien hunter with equal intensity. The creature's biological armor was impressive, clearly evolved for combat. The additional arms would provide significant advantages in close-quarters fighting. But it was also wounded, disoriented, and far from any support. Zextai raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Mike moved. The distance between them disappeared in an instant as the massive humanoid closed the gap with shocking speed. A single swipe of Mike's enormous hand sent the energy rifle spinning into the forest. The alien hunter tried to bring his natural weapons to bear, slashing with razor-sharp claws that could cut through most known materials. But Mike's reflexes, honed by centuries of avoiding human detection, allowed him to anticipate and counter each attack. His massive hands caught Zextai's functional arm, holding it immobile despite the alien struggles. For the first time in his adult life, Zextai felt genuine fear. This creature possessed strength that bordered on the impossible. His claws, capable of cutting through starship hull material, couldn't penetrate the thick hide and dense muscle of his opponent. His natural armor, which had protected him through countless hunts, was being systematically cracked by the tremendous pressure of the creature's grip. Mike lifted the alien hunter off the ground with one hand, holding him at arm's length like a parent might hold a misbehaving child. Zextai's legs kicked futilely, unable to reach his captor. The proud hunter of the Vorthak Dominion had been reduced to a helpless victim in mere moments. But Mike didn't kill him. Instead, he carried the wounded alien to a fallen log and set him down almost gently. Zextai's remaining functional, I stared up at his captor, trying to understand why he was still alive. Mike pointed at the crashed ship, then at Zextai, his meaning clear even without shared language. The alien had come here to hunt, but the hunt was over. Mike gestured toward the sky, indicating that the hunter should leave and not return. Zextai's mandibles clicked rapidly as his analytical mind processed what had just occurred. This creature had defeated him in combat, destroyed his ship, and held his life in its hands. By all rights, he should be dead. Instead, the being was offering him mercy and a chance to depart. Such behavior was unknown among the Vorthak, where defeat meant death and weakness was despised. Yet this creature, clearly superior in combat ability, was choosing compassion over conquest. The implications were staggering and would require significant contemplation. Mike turned away, beginning to walk back into the forest. His enhanced hearing picked up the sound of emergency systems activating in the crashed ship, automated distress beacons beginning to transmit. The aliens' people would come looking for him eventually. Behind him, Zextai struggled to his feet, his injured form swaying unsteadily. The hunter's pride demanded he attempt another attack, but his survival instincts overruled such foolishness. He had encountered something beyond his understanding, something that challenged everything he believed about the natural order of the universe. As Mike disappeared into the forest shadows, Zextai activated his ship's emergency protocols. The distress beacon would eventually reach Vorthack space, bringing a rescue mission. But how could he explain what had happened? How could he tell his people that Earth's legendary creature had not only defeated him, but shown him mercy? The transmission reached the Vorthack Dominion 3 days later, carried by quantum entanglement communicators that crossed galactic distances instantaneously. The message was brief, but unprecedented. A hunter requesting immediate extraction after suffering defeat at the hands of primitive prey. The response was swift and decisive. A full hunting pack would be dispatched to Earth, led by Zextai's clutch brother Carthax, one of the most feared hunters in Vorthack history. If one of their own had fallen to this creature, they would bring enough firepower to glass the entire continent. But they would discover that hunting the Kithra would prove more dangerous than any of them imagined. Mike's actions had awakened something that had slumbered for centuries. The protective instincts of an entire hidden civilization. The humans knew nothing of the guardian spirits that watched over their world, but they were about to learn. The war for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's greatest protectors would emerge from the shadows to defend their adopted world. The Galactic Council would soon learn why some prey was better left unhunted, and why the third planet from Sol harbored secrets that could shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. Mike paused at the edge of his territory, looking back toward the crash site one final time. His enhanced senses detected the alien's life signs, stable but weak. The creature would survive long enough for rescue to arrive. Whether that rescue would bring wisdom or vengeance remained to be seen. The guardian of the forest disappeared into the shadows, but his vigil had only just begun. The Vorthack rescue ship Bloodhunter emerged from hyperspace 3 days after Zextai's distress call, its massive hull bristling with weapons designed to crack planetary surfaces. Carthax stood on the command bridge, his 4 arms crossed as he studied the tactical displays showing Earth's North American continent. Unlike his younger, clutch brother, Carthax was a veteran of 1,000 hunts across 50 worlds. His natural armor bore the scars of countless battles, and his trophy room contained the preserved remains of creatures that had driven entire civilizations to extinction. When the Dominion Council received word that Zextai had been defeated by primitive prey, they had sent their most experienced killer to investigate. Life signs confirmed on the surface, Hunt Leader reported the ship's sensor operator, a younger Vorthack whose natural armor still gleamed with newness. Zextai is alive but severely wounded. His ship is completely non-functional. Carthax's mandibles clicked thoughtfully as he examined the data. The crash site showed signs of incredible violence, but not from energy weapons or explosives. The damage patterns suggested massive kinetic impacts, as if the ship had been struck by thrown objects of enormous mass and velocity. What manner of creature could accomplish this? He wondered aloud. The ship's hunting database contained extensive files on every known species in the galaxy, cross-referenced by threat level, combat capabilities, and hunting recommendations. Earth was listed as a Class G world, inhabited by primitive humans with basic tool-making abilities. No mention of any species capable of engaging Vorthack technology. Perhaps the humans have hidden their true capabilities, suggested the sensor operator. Carthax dismissed this with a gesture. Human technology is barely sufficient for orbital flight. They possess no weapons capable of damaging our ships. He paused, studying the quantum-encrypted message from Zextai. His clutch brother had been characteristically vague about the exact nature of his defeat, mentioning only that the prey had proven more dangerous than anticipated. "Prepare hunting parties," Carthax ordered. Full tactical loadout with enhanced sensors. We will locate this creature and determine how it managed to defeat one of our own. 300 miles below, Mike felt the alien ship's arrival like a disturbance in the natural order. His people possessed senses that extended beyond the normal spectrum, evolved over millennia of avoiding detection. The massive vessel's presence created ripples in electromagnetic fields that his enhanced nervous system could detect. He stood motionless among the trees, his enormous frame hidden by shadows and natural camouflage that fooled even advanced sensors. The aliens had returned in greater numbers, just as he had expected. The wounded hunter's pride would demand vengeance, and his people would not accept defeat gracefully. Mike's mind reached out through pathways known only to his kind, touching the consciousness of others scattered across the continent. The Kythera maintained a network of telepathic communication that humans had never suspected, linking hundreds of their people in a web of shared awareness. They have returned, *key broadcast, sharing sensory impressions of the massive ship above. Multiple hunters. Armed for war. Responses flooded back from across North America. Elder Greyback from the Canadian Rockies, ancient beyond measure and wise in the ways of warfare. Swift Runner from the Appalachian Mountains, young but fierce and eager to prove herself. Stone Foot from the Pacific Northwest, whose strength was legendary even among their kind. We have remained hidden for centuries. Came the mental voice of Greyback, heavy with the weight of ages. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our isolation. The humans know nothing of this threat, added Swift Runner, her thoughts crackling with suppressed energy. Should we warn them? Mike considered this carefully. Humanity had always been protected by the Kythera, though they never knew it. His people had guided lost travelers to safety, prevented natural disasters where possible, and eliminated threats that crept from the deep places of the earth. But this was different. This was an invasion from beyond the world itself. Not yet, decided. Let's first understand what we face. Above the forest, hunting parties deployed from the Blood Hunter like deadly spores. Each party consisted of 3 Vorthak warriors equipped with advanced weaponry and sensor systems. They spread out across hundreds of square miles, searching for any trace of the creature that had humbled one of their own. The lead party, commanded by Carthax himself, descended toward the crash site where Zextai waited. The wounded hunter had survived on emergency rations and medical supplies, but his injuries were severe enough to prevent any significant movement. Carthax found his clutch brother lying beneath an improvised shelter, his natural armor cracked, and 3 of his 4 arms immobilized by makeshift splints. Zextai's remaining eye focused on his rescuer with an expression that mixed relief with something else. Fear. Brother, Carthax growled, crouching beside the wounded hunter. Tell me of this creature that has brought you so low. Zextai's mandibles clicked weakly as he struggled to find words. It was not as our intelligence suggested, Hunt Leader. The being possesses capabilities that defy understanding. Strength beyond measure, speed that mocks our targeting systems, and intelligence that borders on the tactical. Impossible, Carthax replied automatically. No primitive species could possess such abilities. I speak truth, brother. The creature destroyed my ship with thrown stones, moving faster than my sensors could track. It defeated me in single combat, then Zextai paused, his mandibles working silently. Then what? It showed mercy. It could have killed me easily, but chose to spare my life. Carthax's eyes narrowed. Mercy was a concept foreign to Vorthak culture. The weak were eliminated, the strong dominated, and defeat meant death. For a creature to possess the power to kill, but choose restraint suggested a level of sophistication that contradicted everything they knew about this world. Where is this creature now? Carta demanded. Unknown. It vanished into the forest as if it had never existed. But, brother, I sense we're being watched. Have been since your arrival. Carthax activated his enhanced sensors, scanning the surrounding forest with instruments capable of detecting life signs through multiple barriers. The readouts showed normal forest ecology, small mammals, birds, insects. No large predators, and certainly nothing matching the size Zextai had described. Yet something felt wrong. His hunter's instincts, honed through decades of stalking the galaxy's most dangerous prey, screamed warnings. The forest was too quiet, too perfect. Everything appeared natural, but the absence of any trace of the mysterious creature was itself suspicious. Spread the hunting parties wider, he ordered through his communication array. Whatever did this is still in the area. Find it. 2 miles away, Mike crouched motionless in a grove of ancient trees, his breathing and heartbeat slowed to barely detectable levels. The alien sensors swept past him repeatedly, but his people had learned long ago how to hide from technological detection. Their natural camouflage went beyond simple visual concealment, extending to electromagnetic dampening and even limited psychic shielding. Through his network connection, he monitored the movements of other Kithera across the continent. Swift Runner was shadowing another hunting party in the Appalachian foothills, staying just beyond their sensor range while gathering intelligence about their capabilities. Stonefoot had positioned himself near major human population centers, ready to intervene if the aliens threatened civilian areas. The alien hunters were methodical and professional, but they were searching for something they didn't understand in an environment that actively worked against them. The forest itself seemed to conspire in the Kithera's concealment, with wind patterns and wildlife behavior masking their presence. Carthax grew increasingly frustrated as hours passed without any meaningful contact. His hunting parties reported strange sensor anomalies, brief contacts that vanished when investigated, and the persistent feeling of being observed. Several warriors claimed to have glimpsed massive shadows moving between the trees, but their recordings showed only empty forest. "This creature is playing games with us," he snarled to his communications officer. "It knows we are here and is deliberately avoiding contact. Perhaps we should withdraw and request orbital bombardment," suggested one of his subordinates. "If we cannot locate the target precisely, we could eliminate the entire forest." Carthax considered this option. A single plasma bombardment from the Bloodhunter could glass hundreds of square miles, ensuring the destruction of anything within the target zone. But such methods were considered cowardly among the Vorthak. True hunters faced their prey in honorable combat, testing skill against skill. More importantly, the Galactic Council was already questioning Vorthak methods. A request for planetary bombardment to eliminate a single primitive creature would damage the Dominion's reputation irreparably. No, he decided, we will flush the creature into the open, begin igniting the forest in a systematic pattern, force it to move, and have sensor nets ready to track its escape route. The order to begin controlled burning reached the hunting parties within minutes. Vorthak incendiary weapons could create fires that burned at specific temperatures and spread in predictable patterns. They began at the outer edges of the search area, working inward to create an ever-shrinking zone of safety. Mike felt the first flames through his connection to the forest itself. Ancient trees that had stood for centuries began to burn as alien weapons turned living wood into blazing torches. Smoke rose in pillars that could be seen for miles, and the wind carried the acrid smell of destruction across the entire region. The tactic was brutally effective, but also supremely foolish. The aliens had just declared war on the forest itself, and in doing so, they had awakened something far more dangerous than a single Kithra Guardian. Through the psychic network, Mike felt the rage of his people building like a tsunami. Elder Greyback's ancient fury at the destruction of a replaceable wilderness. Swift Runner's hot anger at the casual cruelty of the attack. Stonefoot's cold determination to protect the innocent. But more than that, he felt something else stirring. Deep in the earth, in caves and hidden valleys where the oldest of his people dwelt, minds that had slumbered for decades were awakening. The first ones, the original Kithra who had walked the earth when humans were still learning to make fire, were rising from their meditation. Enough hiding. Asterisk came a mental voice so ancient and powerful that it made the earth itself tremble. Asterisk, the aliens have shown their true nature. Let us show them ours. Asterisk, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the continent, hundreds of Kithra began moving toward the battle zone. Some traveled on foot, their massive strides covering miles and minutes. Others used pathways known only to their kind, teleportation networks established before human civilization began. Mike felt the gathering storm of his people's approach and smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were hunting a single creature hiding in the forest. They were about to discover that they had invaded the homeland of an entire hidden civilization, one that possessed capabilities that would challenge everything the galaxy thought it knew about Earth. Carthax noticed the change immediately. His sensors, which had shown only normal forest life moments before, began registering massive biosignatures converging on their position from all directions. The readings were impossible. Creatures of enormous size moving at speeds that defied physics, appearing on sensors only to vanish and reappear elsewhere. Report. He barked to his communications array. Hunt leader, we are detecting multiple large life forms approaching our position. The readings are inconsistent with known Earth fauna. How many? Difficult to determine. The signatures keep shifting, but preliminary estimates suggest dozens, possibly hundreds of entities. Carthax's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed this information. Either their sensors were malfunctioning, or the single creature they had come to hunt was not alone. The possibility of an entire species of such beings had never been considered. Recall all hunting parties to defensive positions around the crash site, he ordered. Prepare for contact with multiple hostiles. But even as his warriors began regrouping, Carthax realized that the tactical situation had shifted beyond his control. His forces were spread across hundreds of miles, and whatever was approaching could move faster than his teams could reposition. They were about to be engaged by an unknown enemy on that enemy's chosen ground. The first contact came not from sensors or visual sighting, but from sound. A roar echoed across the burning forest, so deep and powerful that it seemed to come from the earth itself. It was answered by another roar from a different direction, then another, until the air itself vibrated with the combined voices of creatures that should not exist. Swift Runner was the first to engage. She emerged from the smoke-filled forest like an avenging spirit, her 7-foot frame moving with impossible grace as she closed on a Vorthak hunting party. The aliens had seconds to react before she was among them, her massive hands moving with precision that belied their size. Vorthak natural armor evolved to withstand energy weapons, and projectile impacts cracked like eggshells under her assault. Claws that could cut through starship hulls snapped like twigs when they struck her hide. The entire engagement lasted less than 30 seconds, leaving 3 unconscious Vorthak warriors and 1 very confused Swift Runner. They are weaker than expected. Asterisk, she reported through the network, her mental voice tinged with surprise. Their weapons are dangerous, but their bodies are fragile. Similar reports flooded in from across the battle zone. Stonefoot had engaged another hunting party near a human campground, making certain to keep the aliens' attention focused away from innocent civilians. Elder Greyback had simply appeared in the middle of a Vorthak formation, his ancient presence so overwhelming that 2 warriors had fled without attempting to fight. Carthax listened to the reports with growing alarm. His carefully planned hunting operation was falling apart as his forces encountered enemies they couldn't track, couldn't predict, and couldn't defeat. The creatures appeared to possess not only individual superiority, but coordinated tactics that suggested advanced intelligence and communication capabilities. Request immediate reinforcement from the fleet, he ordered. All available ships to converge on these coordinates. The response from space was swift, but not encouraging. Hunt leader, we are detecting massive electromagnetic interference emanating from the planet's surface. The phenomenon is centered on your location and expanding rapidly. Carthax checked his own instruments and saw that his communication systems were indeed being affected by some form of interference. More concerning was the fact that his sensors were beginning to malfunction, showing ghost images and impossible readings. High in orbit, the Bloodhunter sensor operators struggled to understand what they were seeing. Energy patterns, unlike anything in their databases, were spiraling up from the planet's surface, creating a web of electromagnetic disturbance that interfered with ship systems. The patterns were too complex and organized to be natural phenomena, but no known technology could generate such effects. "It appears the planet itself is fighting us," reported the chief sensor operator, his voice barely concealing his confusion and fear. On the surface, Mike stood at the center of the growing psychic storm as hundreds of his people linked their minds in a network of unprecedented power. The Kithara had always possessed limited telepathic abilities, but this was something beyond individual capability. This was the collective consciousness of an entire species focused on a single purpose: the defense of their adopted world. The electromagnetic interference was a side effect of their mental joining, their combined psychic energy creating ripples that affected electronic systems across hundreds of miles. But that was just the beginning. As more First Ones joined the network, their ancient knowledge and power added new dimensions to the collective effort. Reality itself began to bend around the assembled Kithara. Space contracted and expanded, allowing their warriors to step from one location to another across vast distances. Time flowed differently, giving them the ability to anticipate and counter their enemies' actions before those actions were taken. Carthax found himself fighting an enemy that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. His targeting systems could not lock onto creatures that moved between dimensions, and his weapons proved ineffective against beings who could predict exactly when and where each shot would be fired. The proud hunter of the Vorthak Dominion was discovering what humans had never suspected: that their world was protected by guardians whose power stretched far beyond the physical realm. The Kithara were not simply large, strong creatures hiding in the forest. They were something far more ancient and dangerous, a species that had chosen to remain hidden not from fear, but from mercy. As the battle raged across the burning forest, that mercy was rapidly coming to an end. The Galactic Council chambers had not seen such urgent assembly in over 2 centuries. Representatives from 12 ancient civilizations materialized through quantum teleportation arrays, their varied forms reflecting millions of years of evolution across thousands of worlds. At the center of the vast crystalline hall stood the Speaker, a being of pure energy who had mediated galactic disputes since before most species had achieved spaceflight. "We are gathered in emergency session," the Speaker announced, its voice resonating through translation matrices in hundreds of languages. "The Vorthak Dominion has reported unprecedented developments from the Sol system, specifically the third planet designated as Earth. High Counselor Thexera of the crystalline hegemony pulsed with agitated light patterns. Her species have been the galaxy's premier scientists for eons, cataloging and understanding every form of life they encountered. The reports are impossible. No species listed in our databases could accomplish what the Vorthak claim. Perhaps the Vorthak are finally learning humility," suggested Advisor Kelman of the Ethereal Collective, his gaseous form shifting through spectrums of color that indicated amusement. "Their pride has long exceeded their actual capabilities." The holographic display at the center of the chamber activated, showing encrypted transmissions from the Sol system. The data streams were fragmentary and corrupted by electromagnetic interference, but enough remained to paint a disturbing picture. Vorthak hunting vessels had engaged unknown enemies and suffered devastating losses. 7 ships destroyed, 12 more severely damaged, reported the Council's military analyst, a cybernetic entity known as Data Core Prime. The engagement patterns suggest the Vorthak forces were outmatched by technologically superior opponents. "Impossible," rumbled War Chief Gorvok of the Taurian Empire, his massive frame bristling with natural weaponry. "No species in this galaxy possesses technology capable of defeating Vorthak hunting fleets. We have verified this through centuries of conflict." The Speaker's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. "Yet the evidence suggests otherwise. More concerning are reports of reality manipulation on a scale that exceeds our understanding of physics. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled representatives. Reality manipulation was the domain of beings so ancient and powerful that most species considered them mythical. If such entities existed on Earth, the balance of galactic power could shift in ways that threatened every civilization. "We must send an investigation fleet," declared Admiral Xona of the Voidwalkers, her crystalline form reflecting light in patterns that conveyed military urgency. "If there are beings of such power in the Sol system, the Council must establish contact before they become a threat to civilized space. Or we could simply quarantine the entire system," suggested Counselor Netheric of the Plague Worlds, his diseased form contained within an environmental suit. Unknown powers are best left undisturbed. The debate continued for hours, with each species arguing from the perspective of their own evolution and culture. Some advocated immediate military action, others counseled caution, and a few suggested that the Vorthack reports were exaggerated or fabricated. The resolution came from an unexpected source. High Mystic Veltar of the Psion Conclave, who had remained silent throughout the proceedings, suddenly spoke with a voice that carried psychic harmonics across multiple dimensions. "I have consulted the Great Memory," she announced, her ancient mind touching knowledge that predated most galactic civilizations. "There are records older than our combined histories of guardian species seeded across the galaxy, beings tasked with protecting specific worlds until their native inhabitants achieved sufficient development." The chamber erupted in disbelief and argument, but Veltar continued with the authority of eons. "These guardians were created by the first builders, the civilization that constructed the hyperlane network and the quantum communication arrays we still use. Most guardian species have long since fulfilled their purpose and departed, but some may remain. If such beings exist," the speaker mused, "their power would indeed exceed our current understanding. The first builders were capable of technologies that manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. The implications were staggering. If Earth harbored guardian beings, any attempt to invade or exploit the system could result in retaliation that might threaten entire sectors of the galaxy. The Vorthack's hunting expedition might have awakened something that the Council was utterly unprepared to face. "We vote," the speaker declared, "all in favor of immediate quarantine of the Sol system pending further investigation." The vote was unanimous. Back on Earth, the battle had evolved beyond simple combat into something approaching a supernatural phenomenon. The Kithra network now encompassed nearly every member of their species across the globe, creating a collective consciousness that operated on multiple levels of reality simultaneously. Mike stood at the center of a clearing where space itself seemed to bend and flow like water. Around him, his people materialized and vanished as they moved through dimensional shortcuts that violated every law of physics. The very air shimmered with psychic energy so intense that electronic equipment failed within miles of their position. The Vorthack forces had retreated to their crash site, forming a defensive perimeter around Zextai's destroyed ship. Carthax realized that conventional tactics were useless against enemies who could step between dimensions and predict his actions before he made them. His warriors, trained for hunting individual prey on familiar worlds, found themselves completely outmatched by a coordinated enemy fighting on their home ground with impossible abilities. "Status report," Carthax demanded through the failing communication system. 17 warriors confirmed lost, Hunt Leader, replied his surviving lieutenant. Medical gel sealing cracks in his natural armor where Kithra hands had struck like living hammers. "The enemy appears to be testing our capabilities rather than attempting to destroy us outright." This was the most disturbing aspect of the engagement. The creatures possessed the power to eliminate the Vorthack forces completely, but they seemed to be conducting their own form of investigation. Several warriors have been captured alive, subjected to some form of mental scanning, then released unharmed but with their memories altered. Swift Runner emerged from a fold in space-time, her 7-foot frame stepping out of empty air as if walking through an invisible doorway. In her massive hands, she carried a Vorthak warrior rendered unconscious by methods that left no physical injury. This one's mind is different. Asterisk, she reported through the network, sharing the sensory impressions of her psychic probe. Asterisk, more complex than the others. It may be their leader. Asterisk, Mike examined the unconscious alien through Swift Runner's perception, noting the subtle differences in armor configuration and the scarification patterns that indicated high rank among the Vorthak hierarchy. More importantly, this one's mind contained detailed knowledge of galactic civilization, star maps, and military capabilities. Scan him completely, Asterisk Mike decided. We need to understand what we face. The psychic probe that followed was gentle but thorough, extracting information with surgical precision while leaving no permanent damage. Through the alien's memories, the Kithra learned of the Galactic Council, the Vorthak Dominion's role as elite hunters, and the vast scope of civilizations that existed beyond their small world. What they discovered changed everything. We are not alone. Asterisk Mike broadcast to the assembled network, sharing the flood of knowledge gained from the alien's mind. Asterisk, this galaxy contains thousands of species, many with technology that could threaten our world. This hunter came here seeking a trophy, but others may come seeking conquest. Asterisk, the revelation sent shockwaves through the Kithra collective consciousness. For millennia, they had focused on protecting Earth from terrestrial threats, never imagining that dangers might come from beyond the stars themselves. Their people had evolved in isolation, developing abilities that seemed miraculous even by galactic standards, but their knowledge of the wider universe was essentially non-existent. Elder Greyback's ancient mind processed the implications with the wisdom of ages. Asterisk, if they know of our world, others will come. We can defeat hunters and raiders, but could we stand against the focused might of galactic civilization? Asterisk, it was Stonefoot who provided the answer, his practical nature cutting through the complex philosophical implications. Asterisk, we are stronger together than any of us imagined. Our combined abilities allow us to manipulate reality itself. No single species in this alien's memories possesses such power. Asterisk, the truth of this observation rippled through the network. The Kithra had always known they were unusual, but they had attributed their abilities to natural evolution rather than deliberate design. Now, examining their capabilities through the lens of galactic knowledge, they realized they were something unprecedented in the known universe. We were designed for this. Asterisk, came the whispered mental voice of Ancient One, the oldest and most powerful of the first ones, speaking for the first time in over a century. Asterisk, our creators knew this day would come. We are not merely guardians of this world, but protectors of the species that will inherit the galaxy. Asterisk, the revelation transformed the nature of the conflict from a simple defense against raiders into something far more significant. The Kithra were not just protecting their territory, they were preparing humanity for its eventual role in galactic civilization. Carthax regained consciousness to find himself back at the defensive perimeter, his memories intact but somehow rearranged. He knew he had been captured and studied, but the experience felt more like a vivid dream than physical reality. His warriors reported similar experiences. Brief periods of unconsciousness followed by disorientation and the persistent feeling that their minds have been thoroughly examined. They are studying us as much as we attempted to study them, he realized aloud. This is not random predation. They have intelligence and purpose behind their actions. The communication array crackled with an incoming transmission from the Bloodhunter in orbit. Hunt Leader, we have received priority orders from the Dominion Council. All forces are to withdraw immediately from the Sol system. Kartus Mandibles klikt in Kinthuen. Explain. The Galactic Council has declared emergency quarantine of this system pending investigation. All Vorthak vessels are ordered to retreat to the outer system boundary and await further instructions. The implication struck Carthax like a physical blow. For the Galactic Council to declare emergency quarantine suggested that Earth harbored something far more dangerous than a single unusual predator. Such measures were reserved for phenomena that posed threats to galactic civilization itself. But even as he prepared to comply with the withdrawal order, Carthax realized that leaving might not be possible. His sensors showed the electromagnetic interference patterns were intensifying, creating a field that would make hyperspace navigation extremely hazardous. "We offer you a choice." Asterisk came a voice that spoke directly into his mind, bypassing his auditory organs entirely. The mental communication carried with it impressions of vast intelligence and power that made Carthax's hunter instincts scream warnings. He looked around frantically, but saw only empty forest. His warriors were equally confused, their weapons raised but with no targets to engage. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a telepathic projection of impossible scope and precision. "You came to our world seeking prey." Asterisk, the voice continued, and now Carthax could sense multiple minds behind it, a collective consciousness of staggering complexity. Asterisk, instead, "You have found guardians. Your people may depart safely, but they must understand that this world is under our protection. Asterisk, show yourselves." Carthax demanded, his remaining functional arms gripping his weapons. The forest around him began to change. Trees that had appeared normal moments before revealed themselves to be massive figures standing motionless among the genuine vegetation. Dozens of enormous humanoids materialized from perfect camouflage, their eyes reflecting intelligence that predated galactic civilization. Mike stepped forward from the assembly, his 8-foot frame dwarfed by some of the ancient beings behind him. "I'm the one who defeated your clutch brother," he said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I could have killed him then, just as we could have destroyed your entire force today. We chose mercy because we understand that you acted from ignorance, not malice." Carthax stared at the creature that had single-handedly destroyed his brother's ship and defeated one of the Dominion's finest hunters. Up close, he could see that this was no primitive beast, but a being of sophisticated intelligence whose physical capabilities were matched by tactical brilliance. "You speak my language," Carthax observed, trying to buy time to process what he was experiencing. "We speak all languages," Mike replied simply. "We have been listening to your communications since you entered our system. We know of the Galactic Council, the Dominion, and the threat your presence here represents to our world. If you possess such capabilities, why remain hidden? Your species could claim a place among the galactic civilizations." Mike's expression grew thoughtful. "Our purpose is not conquest or dominion. We are guardians, protectors of this world and its inhabitants. But that role may be changing." The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Carthax understood warfare and the balance of power that maintained galactic civilization. If beings of such capability chose to emerge from hiding, they could reshape the political landscape of the entire galaxy. "What do you want?" he asked, the question of a military strategist rather than a hunter. Mike smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both terrifying and reassuring. "We want your people to carry a message to the Galactic Council. This world is not as defenseless as it appears. Any attempt at invasion or exploitation will be met with responses that exceed your current understanding of warfare. And if we refuse to carry this message, then you will carry it regardless," Mike replied, his voice carrying undertones of power that made the very air vibrate. "But it would be preferable for all involved if the communication were voluntary." Carthax considered his options and realized he had none. His forces were outmatched, his ships trapped by electromagnetic interference, and his enemy possessed capabilities that rendered conventional military doctrine meaningless. More importantly, he was beginning to understand that these beings represented something unprecedented in galactic history. "I will carry your message," he said finally, "but the Council will want proof of your capabilities. Words alone will not convince them of the threat you represent." Mike nodded, having anticipated this requirement. "Your ships in orbit have been scanning our activities. Their sensor logs will provide adequate documentation. Additionally, we will provide a demonstration that should resolve any lingering doubts." He gestured toward the sky, and Carthax felt the electromagnetic interference patterns begin to shift and intensify. High above them, the Bloodhunter and its escort vessels found their systems affected by energy fields that defied every law of physics their science understood. The demonstration was brief, but unmistakable. Every Vorthack ship in the system was simultaneously and gently moved to the edge of the solar system by forces that their sensors could not identify or quantify. The vessels were undamaged, but their crews were left with the absolute certainty that beings on the planet's surface possessed power that exceeded anything in their databases. Your point is made, Carthax admitted, watching his support fleet appear as distant stars on the edge of sensor range. The Council will receive your message. But even as he spoke, Carthax realized that the message these beings wanted delivered might not be the one the Council needed to hear. The galaxy was about to discover that one of its most primitive worlds harbored guardians whose power could challenge the established order of civilization itself. The question was, what would they choose to do with that power? The Galactic Council's emergency session reconvened within hours of receiving Carthax's full report. The massive crystalline chamber buzzed with translations algorithms, working overtime as representatives from 12 civilizations processed information that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. High Counselor Thexera of the crystalline hegemony pulsed with agitated patterns of light, her crystalline form refracting energy in ways that conveyed deep disturbance. The sensor data is impossible. No known technology could generate the electromagnetic signatures we are seeing from the Sol system. Perhaps the data has been tampered with, suggested Advisor Kelm of the Ethereal Collective, though his gaseous form betrayed uncertainty through subtle color shifts. The Vorthack are known for their pride. They may have fabricated evidence to cover their defeat. War Chief Gorvok of the Taurian Empire slammed one massive fist against his speaking podium, creating a sound that reverberated through the chamber like thunder. I have reviewed the tactical assessments personally. No fabrication could account for the complete displacement of an entire battle fleet. Something moved 73 Vorthack vessels across 40 astronomical units in a matter of minutes. The speaker's energy form pulsed with concerned harmonics. The implications extend beyond simple military capabilities. According to High Mystic Veltar's research into the ancient archives, we may be dealing with guardian species created by the first builders themselves. A holographic display materialized at the center of the chamber, showing fragmentary records recovered from archaeological sites across the galaxy. The data was ancient beyond measure, written in languages that predated most current civilizations by millions of years. The Guardian Protocol, Veltar explained, her psychic voice carrying overtones of awe and fear. The first builders seeded certain worlds with protector species designed to guide native development until those species achieved sufficient sophistication to join galactic civilization. Theoretical nonsense, scoffed Datacore Prime, the cybernetic entity's mechanical voice carrying statistical analysis algorithms. No evidence exists for such a program beyond fragmentary legends and archaeological speculation. The evidence is currently blockading the Sol system, Admiral Zawaxona pointed out, her crystalline form reflecting light in military precision patterns. Whether we call them guardians or something else, they possess capabilities that exceed our understanding. The debate that followed revealed the fundamental problem facing the Council. Every species present had achieved galactic dominance through superior technology, military might, or economic influence. None had encountered beings whose power operated outside the established parameters of physics and engineering. What do they want? Asked Counselor Nethric of the Plague Worlds, his diseased form contained within multiple layers of containment barriers. The Vorthack report suggests they could have destroyed the hunting fleet entirely, but chose restraint. This implies goals beyond simple territorial defense. The speaker accessed the quantum-encrypted message that had arrived with Carthax's fleet, transmitted through communication arrays that operated at faster-than-light speeds across galactic distances. The message was brief, but its implications were staggering. To the Galactic Council, the speaker read aloud, its energy form shifting to convey the gravity of the communication. We are the Kithera, guardians of the world you call Earth. For millennia, We have remained hidden while the species under our protection developed toward galactic readiness. That time of hiding is now ending. We extend this offer once, establish peaceful contact, and recognize our world's sovereignty, or face consequences that will reshape your understanding of power itself. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of translation matrices and life support systems. The message was polite in phrasing, but unmistakable in its implications. Earth's mysterious guardians were issuing an ultimatum to the entire galactic community. They're demanding recognition as a sovereign power, Admiral Zaxona observed, her military instincts analyzing the strategic implications. But they're also offering peaceful contact. This suggests they understand galactic politics despite their isolation, or they're supremely confident in their ability to enforce their demands. War Chief Gorvok rumbled ominously. Either interpretation represents a fundamental shift in the galactic balance of power. High Mystic Veltar consulted her mental connection to the Great Memory, accessing psychic archives that contain the collective knowledge of her species. According to the most ancient records, Guardian species were specifically designed to be more powerful than any individual galactic civilization. Their purpose was to protect developing worlds from exploitation until native species achieved sufficient development. If that's true, the speaker mused, then the humans of Earth may be approaching readiness for galactic contact. The Guardians may be preparing to fulfill their ultimate purpose. The implications sent ripples of concern through the assembled representatives. Humanity had been observed from a distance for centuries, cataloged as a primitive species with basic technology and aggressive tendencies. If they were about to be sponsored for galactic membership by beings of unprecedented power, the political ramifications would be enormous. We need more information, declared High Counselor Thexera, her crystalline form pulsing with decision-making patterns. I propose we send a diplomatic mission to the Sol system. Not hunters or military forces, but genuine ambassadors seeking peaceful contact. Agreed, the speaker announced after consulting the quantum voting matrices. But who would be willing to undertake such a mission? The question hung in the air as each representative considered the risks involved. First contact with unknown beings of immense power was dangerous under any circumstances, but the Guardian species had already demonstrated their willingness to use force when threatened. It was Veltar who volunteered, her ancient mind driven by curiosity that outweighed caution. I will go. As a psychic species, my people may be better able to communicate with beings who demonstrate telepathic capabilities. Back on Earth, the Kithara network had expanded beyond anything previously achieved in their species' history. Nearly every member of their hidden civilization was now connected through psychic links that spanned continents and dimensions. The collective consciousness that resulted operated on levels of reality that even they didn't fully understand. Mike stood at the center of a clearing that had become the focal point for energies that bent space-time around their gathering. Ancient members of his people, beings who had walked the Earth since before human civilization began, shared their knowledge and power through mental connections that transcended individual limitations. The aliens have received our message, Asterisk reported Swift Runner, her consciousness touching communication networks across vast distances. Their response indicates confusion and concern, but also recognition of our capabilities. They fear us, Asterisk added Stonefoot, his practical mind analyzing the intercepted transmissions with tactical precision. Asterisk, but they also respect power. They will send diplomats rather than soldiers. Asterisk Elder Greyback's ancient wisdom flowed through the network, carrying insights gained from centuries of observation and contemplation. Asterisk, the time of hiding is indeed ending, young ones. Our purpose was always to prepare for this moment, when our protected world would join the galactic community. Asterisk Mike felt the weight of destiny settling around them like a cloak. The Kithara had spent millennia as hidden guardians, protecting humanity from threats both terrestrial and extraterrestrial, while carefully guiding their development toward technological and social sophistication. Now that role was evolving into something far more complex. The humans still know nothing of our existence, he observed, sharing his concern through the network. How do we prepare them for contact with galactic civilization? It was Ancient One who provided the answer, the oldest and most powerful of their kind, speaking from wisdom that predated recorded history. We reveal ourselves gradually. The humans have developed science fiction literature and films that explore the possibility of alien contact. We can use these cultural frameworks to ease their transition. The plan that emerged from their collective consciousness was elegant in its simplicity. Rather than shocking humanity with sudden revelation of both alien contact and the existence of their hidden guardians, they would orchestrate a gradual disclosure that built on existing human expectations and fears. Key scientists and government officials would begin experiencing encounters with the Kithara, carefully staged to appear as natural discoveries rather than deliberate contact. Simultaneously, evidence of alien surveillance would be leaked through channels that would reach appropriate authorities without causing public panic. We become the bridge between worlds, Mike realized, understanding his people's ultimate purpose for the first time. We help humanity join the galaxy not as conquered subjects or junior partners, but as protected allies of beings who command respect throughout civilized space. The first phase of the plan began immediately. Dr. Sarah Chun, a xenobiologist at the University of California who had spent her career studying the theoretical possibilities of extraterrestrial life, received an anonymous package containing biological samples that defied conventional analysis. The DNA structures were clearly terrestrial in origin, but demonstrated modifications that suggested artificial enhancement beyond current human capabilities. Meanwhile, Colonel James Morrison of the U.S. Space Force found his secure communication arrays detecting signals from the outer solar system that matched known human technology. The transmissions were clearly artificial, following mathematical patterns that indicated intelligence, but their origin point was moving in ways that violated the laws of orbital mechanics. Similar contacts were initiated around the world, carefully targeted to reach individuals with the scientific background and security clearances necessary to begin preparing official responses. The Kithara's telepathic abilities allowed them to identify the most suitable candidates and predict how each would respond to different types of evidence. Dr. Chen's first encounter with a Kithara occurred 3 days after she received the mysterious biological samples. She was working late in her laboratory, analyzing genetic structures that challenged everything she thought she knew about evolution, when Mike simply stepped out of the shadows between her equipment cabinets. To her credit, Dr. Chen didn't scream or flee. Her scientific mind overcame her fear as she stared at the 8-foot humanoid whose presence filled her laboratory with an aura of intelligent power. She reached slowly for her recording equipment, moving with the careful precision of a researcher who knew she was witnessing something unprecedented. "You're studying our genetic samples," Mike said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in frequencies below normal human hearing. "What conclusions have you reached?" Dr. Chen's hand froze halfway to her recorder. "You can speak English. You're intelligent. She paused, her analytical mind racing through possibilities. "You're what people have been calling Bigfoot." Mike smiled, an expression that somehow managed to convey both amusement and approval. "We are the Kithara. We have been guardians of this world for longer than your species has existed. But our time of hiding is ending. Guardians against what? Against threats your people are not yet ready to face alone. But that readiness is approaching rapidly. Your species has developed technology that will soon attract attention from beyond this world." Dr. Chen's scientific skepticism warred with the evidence of her senses. The being before her clearly possessed intelligence that matched or exceeded human capabilities, but its physical form suggested evolutionary paths that didn't exist in any taxonomy she knew. "You're saying aliens are real? And you've been protecting us from them." "Some aliens. Others, like the diplomatic mission currently approaching your solar system, represent opportunities rather than threats. We want to help your species navigate the transition to galactic contact." Before Dr. Chun could respond, Mike began to fade, his molecular structure becoming transparent as he stepped partially out of normal space-time. Consider what you have learned today. Others of your kind are receiving similar information. When your governments are ready to acknowledge our existence, we will be ready to help humanity join the galactic community. He vanished completely, leaving Dr. Chen alone with her recording equipment, genetic samples that proved his claims, and the knowledge that everything she thought she knew about the universe was about to change. Similar encounters occurred across the globe as the Kithra made contact with carefully selected individuals in government, military, and scientific institutions. Each contact was tailored to the recipient's background and psychological profile, providing exactly the right type and amount of evidence to establish credibility without causing panic. Colonel Morrison's encounter occurred during a routine inspection of a deep space monitoring station in Colorado. He was reviewing the anomalous signals his arrays had been detecting when every piece of equipment in the facility suddenly activated simultaneously, displaying coordinated data streams that formed a three-dimensional map of the solar system. Your defensive systems are impressive, but inadequate, Elder Greyback said, materializing in the center of the control room with the casual disregard for security protocols that only absolute confidence could provide. We have been monitoring potential threats for centuries. It is time your people learned to do the same. Colonel Morrison reached for his sidearm, but his hand stopped halfway to the weapon as Elder Greyback's ancient eyes met his own. The Kithra's gaze conveyed depths of experience and wisdom that made the colonel's military training seem like children's games by comparison. "Who are you?" Morrison asked, his voice steady despite the impossibility of the situation. "I am Greyback, eldest of the Kithra in this region. My people have been protecting this world since before your civilization learned to work iron. But protection alone is no longer sufficient. Your species must learn to defend itself." The displays around them shifted to show tactical information about the approaching diplomatic mission, including details about ship capabilities, weapon systems, and the political implications of first contact with galactic civilization. "This is impossible," Morrison breathed, studying data that revealed military capabilities beyond human comprehension. "If aliens with this level of technology wanted to invade, we couldn't stop them. Which is why you need allies," Elder Greyback replied simply. "The Kithra have been preparing for this moment since your species first learned to use tools. We will stand with humanity as you take your place among the stars, but you must be ready to earn that place through your own strength and wisdom." The encounter continued for hours as Elder Greyback shared strategic information about galactic politics, military capabilities, and the complex alliances that maintain peace among thousands of civilizations. When he finally departed, Colonel Morrison found himself in possession of intelligence that would reshape human understanding of their place in the universe. The pattern continued worldwide as more and more humans received carefully orchestrated contact from a Kithra. Each encounter was designed to build toward a coordinated revelation that would prepare humanity for what was coming. In the depths of space beyond Pluto's orbit, the Psion diplomatic vessel Mindbridge approached the Sol system with sensors extended and defensive systems active. High Mystic Veltar stood in the ship's meditation chamber, her consciousness reaching ahead of the vessel to probe for signs of the mysterious guardian species. What she found made her gasp with surprise and involuntary fear. The space around Earth pulsed with psychic energy of such intensity and complexity that it threatened to overwhelm even her ancient mental disciplines. Minds of incredible power and sophistication touched her consciousness with the gentleness of a summer breeze, but she could sense the vast forces held in careful restraint. "Welcome, seeker of knowledge." Asterisk came a mental voice that spoke in harmonics of thought rather than words. "Asterisk, we have been expecting you. Prepare your vessel for guided approach to our world, and be ready to witness the birth of a new galactic power." Asterisk, High Mystic Veltar realized that the Galactic Council had seriously underestimated what they were dealing with. The beings protecting Earth possessed not just advanced technology or superior physical capabilities, but psychic abilities that dwarfed anything in their databases. Humanity was about to emerge onto the galactic stage under the protection of guardians whose power could reshape the very foundations of interstellar civilization. The question was no longer whether Earth would join the galactic community, but how that community would adapt to the presence of beings who operated beyond its understanding of the possible. The galaxy was about to change forever, and the transformation would begin with a species that had never suspected they were anything more than alone in an empty cosmos.